Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive. I'm Dave Valente, joined by Alien Jam. How you doing?
I
Morning.
am doing all right. How are you?
I am good. It's been a day. It's been a week. It's been interesting.
It has. It has.
We've lost you from Facebook. It makes me sad, but
Well, I
understandable.
apologize to people that I have worried. I am so sorry. I did not quite think it all through, and I apologize for that. I was literally just messaging somebody that was like, "Girl, I was worried." I was like, "Well, you've got my number. This is why." Like, it's okay. Uh, no, it's nice to take a break. I have taken a break previously, but I'm thinking that this might be a real break, like
Yeah.
complete deletion of the entire and the entirety of my profile. So I've been on since 2009. So it's a long
Yeah, I
time.
don't I don't know if I could do it. So I have been on less and less. Now I've put my social media elsewhere. Like I watch an enormous amount of TikTok. Like I love watching TikToks. It's just brain candy. Um, but for me, I've gotten off of Facebook for quite a bit. Oh, we got some chat. Let me get the chat overlay. James Savina, how you doing, sir? Good to see you. So I've gotten off of as posting as much as I used to on Facebook. Like I used to be just a serial poster all the time. It just if something struck me as funny, I posted on Facebook. For now, it's not so much that. I mean, I just kind of veg out and watch videos over and over again. And the other thing that's gotten me off of Facebook as much is I've really gotten addicted to doing Duolingo. So I'm learning Swedish. It's a language learning app. If you don't know what Duolingo is, learning Swedish, and there are contests of can you learn more than anybody in your language group, and so I've been having fun with that, and but that's you got to kind of find places to put your efforts if you're going to get off of social media, at least like that,
You are
at least
correct.
Facebook. And joining us from his freshly updated computer, it's Dan the Man Fishman.
What's up,
What is up?
guys? Hey, AJ, how's it going?
I'm all right. How are you, darling?
I am doing pretty good. I am fired up. I'm ready for a spicy episode,
Spicy.
Spicy? I
and I'll be
like
drinking
it.
smooth. Yes,
Yes.
but also spicy.
Very nice.
I was thinking
Uh,
of you earlier when I had Grease going.
I
Uh,
got
for
chills
the one
when you
that I
say
was.
that.
Yes. In my kitchen, like live and in person. It was amazing. And there was dishes being washed as well. So it was very productive.
did you get the
Great,
grease off?
great musical.
I did. Dawn, man, that's some magic.
Oh, done does it, man. This week we're talking about. Actually, let me read because I was on the radio this week. On Fridays, if I'm on the political panel, each person on the panel picks a topic that they want to bring up for discussion amongst the wider group, and it's an ecumenical group, I guess you could say. It's not just a libertarian. It's a libertarian, a couple Republicans, and a couple Democrats on the panel, maybe an independent or so. Um, Fighting Democrats in West Virginia is kind of hard now, but one of the guys, Larry Schultz, is a pretty rock rib Democrat. But so the topic I picked was rise in anti-transgender laws that have been going on. So I started out the broadcast saying full transparency on this issue. I have a trans niece, and one of my best friends, AJ, has a trans child as well, and actually an adult, really
Adults.
trans adult. But this is a personal issue for me. Anti-transgender legislation this year is at an all-time high, from 19 bills in legislatures in 2015 when the issue started cropping up to over 300 in 2023. And while many of these initial bills dealt with youth participation in sports, fully one-third of these bills now are dealing with gender affirming care or health care amongst the transgender community. Um, uh, this is care that both the American Medical Association and the American Pediatric Association state that this such care is medically necessary, and they have spoken out against such bills. Legislators, grown adults, men mostly, largely targeting young people, and in some cases, like the transgender bill in Utah, for transgender sports bill in Utah, targeted only one person. Um, now it's true that most of these bills are not going to see the light of day. These 300 bills that are before legislatures. Um, I said that our bill in West Virginia is buried in committee. There's actually 5 bills, and I found one bill is actually crossed over. So there's one that we really need to watch in West Virginia. But for a member of the community of people who are being targeted by the state, just the mere introduction of this legislation, the chance that these bills can become law, has got to be very psychologically damaging. Knowing that laws are enforced at the barrel of a gun, um, it's got to be frightening. And knowing the question that I had for the group was, when are small government conservative Republicans going to learn how to uh, get out of the doctor's office, get out of the doctor's business, and learn to mind their own business? And predictably, I know AJ watched the aftermath on
Mm.
YouTube. Uh, Predictably had a Republican saying that this is a cultural issue, and that we have to fight to save the children. And the Democrat, to his credit, was supportive, but was more focused on getting money for foster care in West Virginia, which I get. That's actually a concern, especially if you're going to do bills like anti-transgender legislation, and criminalizing parents who do get care for their children. You're going to put more kids in the foster care system. So yeah, he has a point there, but it's sad that we've gotten to this point in America where we're so concerned that we're writing bills for really a small community and targeting them, and it's probably because they're such a small community that they're being targeted for this harassment.
And I mean, we're not writing bills to help people, right? They're writing bills to persecute people.
Exactly.
That's what it is. And you can't write a bill that persecutes a lot of people because they're politically powerful.
Yeah.
And if they feel persecuted, they'll vote you out of office. So you can only pick on the smaller group. And sadly, that's how people marshal political power nowadays. They say, you know what? Let's find this small group and we can all bond by ganging on them. And that we're next. Like, I mean, at some point in time, they're going to come after me and Dave because we're too big. We're too fat. That's going to be a threat to people. Or, they're going to come after AJ because that headband, right? We don't like people who wear headbands or whatever it is. It's going to be something that's divisive that they can get people to marshal together because there's so much political power in government that they'll do anything they can, including throwing away what has been the most cherished idea that we should all live and let live. They're
Mhm.
going to throw all that away so they can have more power.
AJ, you are, of course, the parent of a transgender adult. I know it's been a rough week for you, especially in the state of Tennessee. Tell us what's going on in Tennessee.
Well, let's see. We had a rally at the Capitol on Monday, and there were people there that worked at Club Play. Now, Club Play is a wonderful club in downtown Nashville that I have been lucky enough to go to. And she made an excellent point. Not only is she a productive member of society, but she owns 2 properties in Nashville. She pays taxes and whatnot, and these laws are going to affect her ability to do her job. Now, that bill that she was specifically talking about is concerning drag queens being in any kind of public forum when they're performing. They can perform in private, but if they're in public, they can be fined. And I think there's up to a year and then like they can actually be they put in jail for 6 to 7 years because we don't already have, like a crowded jail issue here in Tennessee. And we also don't have better things to do than to prosecute drag queens. A lot of the cops are killing folks in Memphis, but what else? Um, I just feel like it's a complete waste of time. And also, this will cancel Pride, right? So that's how the week started. Was this will cancel Pride? Like this will make it harder. And of course, we had the literal Nazis protesting an 18 and over drag queen fundraiser in Cookville just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
So this is just building. Like this is how the week started. Okay. And then they went after health care for transgender kids. So this is gender affirming care. Now they are discussing places like Vanderbilt, which that name used to really mean something, like it's Vanderbilt, like you're getting the best care if you're at Vanderbilt. Apparently, according to the government, not so much. Mostly Bill Lee. They've started an investigation into gender affirming surgeries that haven't happened. That haven't happened. But that's what they're telling people is, like on the radio show, the example that they brought up, and I love that they always bring up some tiny, tiny child about this. 9-year-olds going in there and getting their penises chopped off. Okay, it's not happening. That's not the care that they're receiving. The
Yeah.
majority of it is gender affirming therapy. It's buying the correct clothes, it's haircuts, it's pronouns. It's literally that simple. And yes, later there are puberty blockers, which are reversible. It's like birth control. While you're taking the birth control, you're less likely to get pregnant. Once you stop taking the birth control, that protection goes away. These are hormones. I'm just a big believer in keep the government out of my doctor's office. If I'm receiving care, I'm not going to call Governor Lee and be like, so it's really weird. My stomach's been upset for like 8 months now. No, I went to my doctor and I got it taken care of. And I didn't ask the freaking politician that's fear mongering against my family. Because as far as I'm concerned, if you're a member of the LGBTQ community, you're my family. Because I'm not going to be quiet. Like I may have left Facebook, but I'm not being quiet anywhere. I'm taking a break
Yeah.
because it makes me hate people because they will stand up for the rights of anything else but who they should. And a lot of the poison that I feel like I was absorbing was from the Libertarian Party is not standing up for human rights. And go figure, they voted those planks away. They don't give a shit.
Yep.
So yeah,
Lord, no.
we can't stand up that right there. And if we can't stand up for the least of us, then what the fuck are we doing? It will be someone next. And Dan, they already came for me. Roe v. Wade, as soon as that was tossed out, Tennessee's trigger laws took effect. Like it doesn't directly affect me because I don't have a uterus. But if I did, like they went after C-sections, they went after birth control, they went after IUD placements, they went after a lot of women's health care.
Yep.
And most of women's healthcare doesn't actually involve babies. Like there's a whole other range of issues that we could be dealing with that these treatments would help that have nothing to do with an abortion, but they tacked it on the bill anyway. And because they're like, we're going to save babies, people voted it through. Now, that is the oldest trick in the book. I didn't have to be involved in politics for more than a couple of years before I figured out if we're doing it for the children, that's going to win. Because you can't vote against the kids, now can you?
The
You'd be an
children.
asshole. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Well,
There's
we talked. We were talking before the show about some of these laws impacting hormone replacement therapy and things like that, which can impact your life because if you have something where you need hormone replacement therapy, they're going to make it harder for people to get that therapy. They're going to make it. They're going to criminalize doctors for giving that therapy. So you're going to have fewer doctors who are willing to give that therapy out. Um, and it's not just transgender that need hormone replacement therapy. A woman going through menopause needs that stuff. A woman who's had a hysterectomy needs that. Men who have low T need that, you know? So it's not just
Absolutely.
uh, that's the thing that people aren't seeing with these laws is that there are knock-on effects that don't just impact the transgender community. It it impacts every community, because it's going to impact the ability for doctors to give you care without looking over their shoulder.
It's also going to increase, okay, let's figure out a way to convince people that this is a bad idea. I figure let's go for their purses, right? Or their wallets, excuse me. Because if you are someone that needs hormone replacement, instead of just not being able to get it, let's say they tack on, you know what, we got to test that monthly. Make sure that you're actually getting it. You're not passing it along to someone else. Because once hormones become something, but once hormones become like narcotics,
Yeah.
there's going to be a black market for it, which means there's going to be more suspicion to the people that take it, even the people that need it, period, need it, whether it's cancer, whether it's, PCOS, whatever it is. Those people are going to be tested and they're going to are going to go through so much more hassle to get the medication that they've been taking for 10 years or whatever the crap it is.
Yeah.
Then they're going to complain, well, why is it like this? Well, we passed the law about this. Well, that's stupid. It shouldn't affect me.
Well,
I didn't do anything. Oddly enough, neither's anybody else.
yeah.
Nobody's doing anything to you.
And if you don't think this is going to happen, it's happening right now.
Yeah,
If
it's
you're a
happening.
if you're a cancer patient and you need opioids to get through to manage your pain during cancer, even end of life care, it's so hard to get those. You're treated like a criminal every time you go to fill your prescription because they think that you're selling it off, you're just a criminal. So you have to jump through so many hoops when you're already dealing with, cancer, like late stage cancer that's eating you alive.
Mhm.
But you're already having to deal with this because the government screwed up and wasn't holding anyone to account for doing the bad things. And now they're criminalizing everybody. They're trying to kill a mosquito with a nuclear weapon. So
Yes.
it's just frustrating. I think that the healthcare that we can debate the sports all we want to. Um, I know that there's arguments on either way. I still don't have a problem with the sports aspect of transgender athletes participating in sports that conform to their gender, their chosen gender. But when it comes to healthcare, I'm gonna side where the doctors are telling me that we should side, and that's with giving
Mhm.
gender affirming care as early as possible, because that has the best outcome. If a child says, "Hey, I really am identifying this way, I need to," okay, let's start having that conversation with doctors and let the doctors have that, and the patients have that discussion, the parents.
You're opening up such a can of worms, and I can't believe the same people that absolutely pitched a fit about putting on a mask and standing up correctly against mandatory vaccinations, because I don't believe in that either,
Yeah.
are the same ones that are like, nope, women and transgender people, I don't think that they can be trusted to make decisions about their own care. I don't think that those doctors that are providing that care know what they're doing, even though they are the people that provide that care. They are the ones that write the protocols. They are the ones that we go to when there's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, and the left didn't do themselves any favors by fighting for mandatory vaccines, which a lot of them did.
Yeah.
But it's all about bodily autonomy, and that's it. It comes down to this fundamental thing of, does government have the right slash power to make you do something with your body or make you not do something with your body that you want to? It's all one issue. And yet people seem to try to pick and choose to make it their what they like, as opposed to the discretion. And the problem is that when we do that, things change over time. Okay.
Yep.
Issues change. Like nobody saw, you know what? I was a kid growing up, there were no trans issues. It just wasn't in our lives. It wasn't on media. A number of people who, because either it wasn't safe for them to come out, or the people. A friend of mine is a black comedian, pretty famous, and he does a routine where he says, I sat here and I met this boy. He was 15 years old. And he's like, I knew I was gay when I was 12. And I'm like, what? How is that possible? At 12, I had no idea what was going on in my life because I grew up in the 70s and there just was no information out there for me. So I'm happy for you that you at 12 could know these things about it. Whatever the situation was, in the 70s, we didn't have a lot of information. So we didn't have I don't recall any issues about this at all. Really, nothing at school, nothing like that. But the issues always change, and it's the next issue. I mean, I tell you what, it is on the cusp of happening. I think it's going to be body modification. I think that you're going to see very quickly the wealthiest people modifying their bodies in ways that are going to give them enormous lifespans, greater strength, all these things that we're going to be saying, oh yeah, that's unfair that they're doing all these things. And then what's going to happen is, you're going to see Steve Austin wants to compete in the Olympics. And we're going to have to make a decision about that. I think it's a pretty easy decision to make, but
Well,
Steve Austin, not the wrestler, guys. Colonel
no,
Steve
no.
Austin.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things that I got hit with when I was talking about this issue on the radio was, what if your 9-year-old wants to come in with and get a cyborg arm put on to themselves,
Mhm.
get their arm cut off and put a cyborg arm on? Like, well, first off, the American Medical Association and the American Pediatric Association are now advocating and saying that this is good care for children. So that argument is out, and they're also saying, what about children who want to eat sugar for every meal? And I said, again, the American Medical Association has not come out and said, "Yeah, that's a good idea. That's good care for a child." No, it's gender affirming care so that you know gets a child into their proper gender and lets them get an early start on whatever care they need, whether it's just you know growing their hair out and putting on a dress or cutting their hair and putting on a t-shirt and jeans, uh, just to look the part, or whether it's to go further and get their hormone replacement therapy and eventually maybe getting surgery if they deem that is where they want to go. But you know to me I think a lot of this to me, I think a lot of the anti-trans is the same thing as the anti-LGBTQ stuff, and that it's a lot of these people who are the hardest against this are repressing a lot of issues.
It's funny that you say that as I sit here and like what the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Well,
Yeah.
look at J. Edgar Hoover. I mean, guy that would he how many people of the FBI did he round up and fire and for just being homosexual? And it turned out he was a cross dresser. You know, I think a lot of times when you see people who are just the most virulent, like, and I put this across the board, the most virulent opponents of things like LGBTQ, even the anti-pedophilia people, the ones that have the most visceral reaction to it, I think are hiding a lot of shit in their lives.
I don't disagree with you. I think that a lot of Dan said this earlier, if it's
Patty.
an us versus them kind of thing, that makes it so much easier. But they are demonizing the trans community. And I mean, these are people that are just trying to live their lives, like, go to
Yeah,
work and come home and stop by the pharmacy and pick up their freaking ibuprofen or whatever the
No,
crap. Like, they're not doing anything wrong. And, when the bathroom laws came down in Tennessee and it was forcing businesses to put up signs to let people know that we allow transgender people to use the bathrooms here. The businesses in Tennessee were like, that's a whole responsibility. Like, I don't think we want to do that. And so they didn't, which was
And
amazing. But
it's completely ridiculous. And the thing is, so one of my favorite quotes is Mark Twain said, "Everybody complains about the weather, but nobody does anything about it." And a lot of what's going on now is people saying, you know what? All these things that we couldn't figure out what was going wrong, we can blame on this. So we blame thing on trans. Like, a lot of people, and really, it's a question of which is the leading statistic. A lot of people say, oh, church membership is way down. That's because of the influence of, the LGBT community or whatever.
Yeah.
Or is the problem that the church is actually losing people because they're not being loving and accepting of the LGBT community?
Yep.
Other stuff. A lot of people say, my bank card got demagnetized. That's because of the LGBT community. Suddenly my
you're
bank
not wrong.
Yeah.
Charlie was, anytime anything happens, Charlie's like, hold on. They're going to circle around how I did it. Hold on.
I mean,
Chinese spy balloon, probably gay. Just saying. It's just like, God.
Yep.
Yeah,
And he's
we're
not
seeing that.
wrong. Like everything circles back around. And of course, the loudest politicians are the ones that are getting the attention. Did you see that Marjorie Taylor Greene and George, or whatever the frick his name is, are co-sponsoring a bill to ban books, LGBTQ books?
Wait a minute,
And
the lying congressman from New York, that dude, or
Yeah, whatever his name actually
he's
is, that
gay.
guy.
He's gay.
he's not gay. He's politically gay.
He's politically gay.
He doesn't.
He's
Well,
conveniently gay.
He would be anything. Because he
well,
has
yeah. I mean, he
changed.
is anything, but I mean,
I mean,
at
he
least when
changed
he was
from
before he
being a Democrat
became.
to a Republican, right?
What's that?
He changed from being a Democrat to a Republican.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
so much about his life is a lie, but I
Yeah.
do think at his core, he is gay.
Right.
I
well,
think
we
that.
have one
Well,
in, we have a representative, a Republican here in Tennessee, Ogle, I think, whose
Oh
resume
yeah,
has also been false. And
yeah.
they're comparing him to whatever his name is. And so, interesting enough, I have been taking classes on how to beef up your resume. And I think I could run for Congress, y'all.
Yeah,
I think I could fucking get it.
absolutely.
Like, I'm just saying.
Absolutely. Run for Congress. I mean, I'd much rather
Now,
have you there than Marjorie Taylor Greene.
oh, I'm not gonna wear a fur coat, but I will wear some like fabulous thrift store attire, I'm sure. No, the week has been awful because I feel like the government is after me. Like they're after me and they're after my family. And how is that actually a reality? And this is how every dystopian book that I've read, and I've read a lot of them lately, this is how they start, is taking away people's ability to own their own bodies.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not an expert, but I do think that if we are legislating against a small group of people, there's a couple different examples in history where that started and didn't end well.
Yeah.
So
I
I
I
can't
always
decide, y'all.
I always blank on the name of the poem, but there's that poem that was written about the Nazis. Uh first they came for their Jews, and they, that nobody was there to speak up for them, or I didn't speak up for them because I was not a Jew. That poem. Um yeah, the people always put that slippery slope of what if we are too permissive in what we do within our culture, um, not really caring that for years politicians have been trashing our culture to allow a guy like the congressman from New York to be elected, for us to be so okay with our politicians lying to us every day that a congressman with a completely fabricated resume gets elected in a district that probably wouldn't normally elect this guy. Um, but they've been trashing our culture for years. Nobody's writing rules to ban politicians, but they're very comfortable with targeting specific groups. And again, playing this whole fear monger, this whole, everything is done because our culture is going down the tubes because the gays, the trans, the the immigrants, uh, you know uh, thug culture, things
It-
like that they just demonize and want to build fear out of.
yeah, and I mean, and it does circle back around to the fact that all they really want is political power,
Yep.
and this is just a path to it. I, you know, there are a few people who I believe, whatever they were misguided in their youth, in their church, whatever. I see that there are some people who think that, you know, non-binary belief in non-binary sexuality is a sin, even though, you know, there's all sorts of evidence against it. I believe that there's some people of good conscience who that's where they are because of their religious indoctrination. What's not okay is for those people to think, I get to make everybody else live by my rules,
Yep.
because that part's crazy, right? Who else thinks that any other religion should make people live by their rules? Like, so Sikhs are required to carry at least 5 weapons on their body at all time. Okay, they are a warrior caste. That is part of their religion. If they won an election, do we think, oh, you know what? The Sikhs get to determine what we're all going to do. Everybody's got to wear a turban because that's one of your weapons. And, you know, you've got to hide 4 other weapons. TSA would go bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Or I mean, imagine if Jews were to win election, say, sorry, no more bacon. You guys can get by on turkey bacon, but regular bacon. I know for a fact that if I told Dave that he couldn't rub butts anymore, that's going to be pretty traumatic for him.
Yeah, I'd have to go jihad on that one.
It's a
Exactly.
little weird for me. I grew up here in Tennessee, and I grew up with my grandfather was a Baptist preacher. And I don't know, have either of you ever been to a foot washing?
Mm-mm.
No.
It's a really common thing here.
Yeah.
Um, I've been to several, like, little heathen me back in the day. And it's weird for me that Christians went from washing the feet of sinners, Jesus washing the feet of sinners, to throw them in jail.
Yeah.
Like, they're not human. They don't get to do this. They don't get to demand rights. They don't get to have the same health care. They don't get to have the same options. We are going to demonize them. We're going to criminalize them, and we're going to wipe them out of existence. How did they get from washing feet to that? That's the wildest trip for me. And oddly enough, I kind of feel like it might involve quite a bit of media, and certain politicians that are just fear mongering, and they're falling for it. I think that was my breaking point this week. I really think so. Is I'm watching these people that I thought that were smart. I that like they've known me for years. They've known me through everything for years, and they're smart. They're medical professionals, or they're professionals in their field or whatever it is, and they're still falling for it. They're still like, "I don't want 9-year-olds to get their penises chopped off." Oh my god, that's not happening, and it doesn't matter.
Right.
Like, they have absorbed enough of it. I was like, "There is nothing more I can do here." I like, I need to save myself, because I felt like the entire world was gaslighting me.
Yeah.
It was
Yep.
just like, "Am I alone here?"
Well, and that's
If
exactly where it is. Is that it's a massive gaslighting
yep.
on idiots.
If a lie is repeated and often enough,
Yep.
it
Yep.
becomes the truth. And that is the sad thing of our political existence right now, is that we have just accepted just outright bold lies. Even, I mean, a rational person just taking a just a surface level look at a lot of these claims would understand that, yeah, that's not really happening. Like, that's not the truth.
Right.
But when everything that we've talked about, people siloing themselves into a social media and a actual real media silo that says the same things over and over again. They go to their churches, and their friends at the churches are saying the same thing over and over again. Um, and their politicians are saying the same thing over and over again. That becomes a truth for them, and that's incredibly dangerous. How many people have just kind of abdicated the responsibility of being somebody who looks at both sides of the argument and determines the truth for themselves.
Yeah,
I know
there's.
that,
Go
go ahead.
ahead, AJ.
I know that like the both of you, like we have trans friends, we have trans family members, the majority of people that are making these rules, that are making these crazy, insane claims, they do not know a single trans person. They've never met a trans person. And if they have, they didn't realize it. Like, and that's great. That honestly, hell yeah. But like if you're making rules based on something or someone that you've never met, never had any actual contact with ever at all, like how are we not rioting in the streets against these people? Like that's what I don't like. Where's the outrage? You know,
The
this
Because
pro-
this
it's
is
I mean,
small change.
part of the problem is where's the outrage? It's consumed by apathy, right? Most people just don't care about anything. They only care about themselves. They're unbelievably selfish, but so long as they are kept fat and happy, with bread and circuses, they're quite content to say, I don't need to get involved in this because they're
And
not coming for us.
but it's not just that. It's that we have kind of gone into a cultural hate porn that everything, if you watch the news nowadays, everything is a crisis. Everything is, you know, whether it's immigration or, fucking Chinese balloons and all this other bullshit that's going on. It's hyped up to such a crisis level that everything is a crisis. So nothing is a crisis. And people are being attacked, whether it's immigrants or any other community that's being attacked, the minority community that's being attacked, it becomes overwhelming. Who do we stand up for? Do I go stand up for the trans community? Do I go stand up for the minority community because they're getting beaten by cops and killed? Do I go stand up for this group or that group? And it becomes overwhelming because we have allowed ourselves to be just punched over and over again by fear from politicians, and it desensitizes you. Like, I think a lot of the stuff is that we've just become so desensitized to people being picked on and people being bullied that we're not doing anything about it because there's just too many right now, and it's sad.
It
But
is sad. And one of the reasons why I think that, a smaller government has to be the one thing that we fight for is because so many people are apathetic, right? Most people, if you ask them, do you want to take away rights from these people? They'd say no. But the problem is that they're apathetic. And so they just let people get voted. And the people who get elected are the ones who do want the power. It's the worst. Another great Mark Twain quote, Two in One Night. Mark Twain once said, the only good thing about a monarchy is that occasionally you get a ruler who didn't want the job. Sadly, everybody that we elect wanted the job. So that should be a disqualifying factor. We shouldn't allow anybody who actually runs for office to have the position. I want to circle back around because I have to tell a joke
uh,
about how do we get from feet washing to here. Jesus is walking down the street and he sees a crowd about to stone a woman, and he walks up and he says, "Stop. Let he among you who is without sin cast the first stone." And the crowd is ashamed and they put their heads down. And all of a sudden, a rock flies out of the crowd, swap, and hits a woman. Jesus is like, "Mom, come on. I'm working here." Sorry.
wow.
Yeah. Never
Um,
apologize.
Well, have you ever heard my theory of how we should do government?
no.
Government should be like jury duty. Every 2 years for the U.S. House, every 6 years for the U.S. Senate, every 4 years for the president, summons go out, and
Yeah.
you are a representative for your district for the next 2 years. And it doesn't matter if you don't want the job. You want to try and get out of your jury duty, you can't do it. You got to serve. And same with Senate, same with the presidency. There's just a 2 years, and you get a bunch of people who don't really want to be there. They're not going to do a whole lot. And
Hmm.
Here's my plan: sunrise, sunsets for everything. Okay, and then no bill can pass unless it passes by 80%.
that works for me too.
Easy cheesy. So
Yep.
the really important stuff will be able to get passed.
You know what? That doesn't even work there because I mean, you won't see much passed at all. Maybe some post office renamed for some politician or whatever. But the stuff that we think would be easy, that you think has a ton of popular support for to move forward, rarely gets moved forward. It's more on the line of how much the people who benefit from that legislation that donate to politicians. That's how much more likely it's to get passed than whether it's a popular bill or not.
Um, hmm.
James,
Tripcast podcast said mine is a terrible idea. It's yeah, I'm sure it's a terrible idea, but our current government right now is a terrible idea. So
Um,
I get that. I think it's better than what we got going right now. So Dan, you wanted to talk about sports. What are
well,
your thoughts on sports?
I mean, it is the one big issue, okay, where we talk about what are the one thing, like, so J.K. Rowling's had a big game come out. A lot of people are mad at her because she is, I believe, even self-described TERF, trans exclusive radical feminist.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly where she is, what she said, stuff like that. But I do know that there is a lot of conflict in the community about sports and whether or not everybody should be allowed to participate in the sports category that they want to. And there are a lot of people who are saying that there are, in women's sports, let's be clear too. Nobody's saying that women who who become men can't compete in men's sports. Nobody's
Nobody's
saying
talking about trans man. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
It's only about men who have transitioned to women, and this is actually a much older issue than people realize. I said this never happened in the 70s. I'm a liar, right? Because Renee Richards transferred. Renee Richards was a male player, a male professional player, and I mean he was at the end of his career, and he wasn't a great male player anyway. He was like, top 1,000, but he made it to the finals of several women's tournaments. Here's the thing: we have for a long time in sports accepted that there are categories that we put people in based on their capacity. Uh, Little League is probably the best example, right? We don't let 13-year-olds and 14-year-olds play in Little League because they're too big, they're too strong. However, I'm pretty sure that there is no gender restriction in Little League, certainly not in younger baseball.
No.
Um, and so,
And football
yeah,
too, for that matter. Because I played against
yeah,
you in football.
exactly. Pop War, yeah. Those of you who've seen it happen, girls generally dominate Pop Warner football. They're just faster at that age group, smarter. They are. Every time I've been to a Pop
Pretty much a
Warner,
huge group.
yeah, there's a team that has 2 or 3 girls on it that are just awesome. But when we're talking about the Olympics, when we're talking about NCAA competitions, there is a question of should we have gender-based or sexuality-based categories? Should we have a males and a men's and a women's category? And for me, I feel like you have to, because in situations where men and women compete equally, there's just no competition. They run they have a thing called the mixed relay that they do at the Olympics.
Hmm.
It's a 4x400, and you have 2 men and 2 women run on your team together. And it's not even close. The women's record in the 400 meter is surpassed. Last year, it was surpassed by 500 high school men. So the women's world record, it's just not competitive. And so if you have an open season, an open sport, men are going to win everything. So recognizing that that's, in my opinion, not a good way to do things. I believe that women ought to be able to, first of all, I think sports are wonderful. I think everybody should participate in sports. I don't care I don't care anything about you. Participating in sports is a wonderful thing, especially if you can do a team sport, because you learn wonderful things like not everybody gets to be the quarterback. Not everybody gets to be the star, but you have a role, and performing your role well makes you part of the team, and getting the team to perform well together, man, those are life lessons everybody needs. But so in this scenario, there's a question about women who have who were formerly men and have a genetic advantage. And the most common one was the woman whose name I can't think of right now, who swam for Pitt, I believe.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah, but she had been a competitive male swimmer in college. She had gone through puberty. She was big. She had wings. She had, long arms and muscles, and her lung capacity was, again, men genetically develop better lung capacity. We have a different path post puberty in terms of how our bodies develop. It's not fair for her to compete, even though she didn't win the whole thing. There
No.
were some women who were faster than her. However, when she competed in the men's, when in her former iteration, when she competed as a man, she was not competitive.
Yeah.
When she
So,
competed as a woman, she won the Ivy League.
but here's where I lay in this issue is that, um, you know, when it gets to a professional level, maybe we can have that conversation. But they first off, again, it's an incredibly small population that are transgender first, and then participating in sports second. Um, like that mentioned that one bill in Utah where it was written there was only one trans female athlete that it impacted, and by the time that the veto was overridden, I believe that athlete had already graduated. So it wasn't even like a law that was really needed. Um, we think that I think a lot of people say, well, if you allow the trans athlete to participate in the female sports, then my God, I hate saying female in women's sports, um, that you're denying an opportunity for another girl to play the sport. Now, generally, if you're talking like team sport, that athlete that they're replacing on the roster is probably the one that's going to be riding the bench the entire season. Um, the least you're not gonna bench your star athlete in exchange for
Well, but it's not just that, because there's a pretty good example of a woman from Connecticut who finished third in her state competition
Mhm.
to 2 trans people. Uh, they got to go on and compete at the regional final where they were scouted for athletes for scholarships. She didn't get to go to that competition because she lost out at the state level. She finished third. And so there is an argument that, people out there in competition. Now, again, I want everybody to play sports. And I will tell you, there are recreational leagues all over the country that you can play in and compete in. And I did that for years. And I know that it's not the same as competing with the best of the best, but playing sports is about participating. So few people get to compete at the highest level. for those people who get to compete at the highest level, we either have to say there is a difference and there's a reason for breaking the sexes up, or there isn't. And if we can admit that there is a reason for breaking the sexes up in competition, then we have to go back and say, look, there's some discrepancy going on here. And are people losing because they're at a disadvantage?
I mean, maybe we go back to having co-ed sports and not having gender specific sports.
But I disagree, because if you do that, women don't win anything. I mean, women will never win anything.
I mean, yeah, if you're talking like individual sports, but if they're on the team, then they're.
They wouldn't be on the team.
I mean, you can always write rules to.
They won't be on the team. So here you go. You're talking about making an artificial thing then, and so you're going to have sex-based roles. You say, oh, every team has to have 2 women. That's.
But if you're making sex-based rules for one transgender athlete within a sport in a state that they can't compete, or they have to compete as a male athlete, even though their gender.
I mean, if you're going to have women's sports, okay, you have to have and look, sports is already theoretically enormously unfair. I mean, I really wanted to be a professional quarterback. It couldn't happen. I was not biologically made to do that. Okay. I know, Dave, you really wanted to be a jockey.
Yeah.
You walked in and the horses said
crushed it.
no.
Dude, I crushed it. That poor horse didn't know how to hit it.
Right. But that's the thing about it, is that we all are born with physical limitations that prevent us from doing what we like to do in sports. That's it. And so whatever these people,
like you said, there are rec leagues to be able to do.
Exactly. And everybody is welcome to compete at those levels. And those rec leagues are incredibly fun and serious. People take them, like, so in Boston, like, that was the real way to meet people. I know like 20 couples who met in the co-ed sports leagues.
Yeah.
Volleyball.
Is
soccer.
the argument then that we get rid of sports at the school level and have it just be rec level?
I mean, if you wanted to do that, that's fine. I mean, certainly at school, you can make a strong argument. It's ridiculous for school on sports.
Yeah.
A lot of schools don't anymore. However, as somebody who, played sports in school, I think that you learn a lot socially by participating in sports, but it doesn't have to be run by the school. It could be run locally in some other way.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking at, European places where they have athletic clubs that handle sports and things like that.
Yeah. It's a good idea for a bunch of different reasons, not to mention the fact that different school districts have different amounts of money, and they have booster clubs, and the kids who go to rich districts have a better sporting experience.
I mean, look at the top high school soccer players in the United States could go over to
Right.
England and play for some club and be a professional by the time they're 16 years old.
Yeah, or golfers or tennis players, right? No professional golfer lives in Minnesota. A friend of mine's brother moved to Florida because when his daughter was 11 years old, she was driving at 300 yards, and the local pro said she can go pro, but she needs to be playing golf every day, and you can't do that in Massachusetts. So you guys need to move to Florida. So they moved to Florida. She's on the tour.
But I think at the end of the day, we're writing so many rules, and this is going to be brutally honest about women's sports. Not enough people care about women's sports.
Bill Barr's got a great thing about it when he talks about the WNBA. He says, there are all these people who are complaining that athletes in the WNBA aren't paid enough. And he said, look, first of all, the WNBA is supported by the NBA. Okay, all the salaries are paid for it out of it. And secondly, don't tell me that it's my fault. Women, feminists, you failed the WNBA because you aren't going to the games. Those women are playing in front of 300 or 400 people every night. That's crazy. So yeah, it's clear that at least at that level. On the other hand, let's take the counter argument. WTA, Women's Tennis Association, they know what they're doing. They're making tons of money. They are more than self-sufficient. Now, is the women's top level title, does it pay as much as the men's? I don't know where they are with that anymore, but it's close. And for a long time, women's tennis was more exciting than men's tennis. Men's tennis has come back, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's probably broken about men's tennis too. In fact, Venus Williams talked about it. There's been a few scandals on this recently. McEnroe got in trouble where he was in an interview and they asked him about Serena Williams, and he said, greatest female tennis player of all time. And they're like, well, why do you need to qualify it? Why can't you just say she's the greatest tennis player? He's like, she's not. I mean, she certainly can't beat Nadal or, any of the top men. It's like she probably couldn't beat me, although Mac didn't say that. And later on, Serena Williams talked about the fact, she said, Andy Murray, who was the British champion, right? So British champion, not very good. But she's like, Andy Murray keeps trying to get me to play him, but I don't want to play him. She's like, if Andy Murray and I played, he probably beat me 6-1, 6-1. And the thing is that the men play 5 sets anyway, and the women only play 3. And they're faster. The serves are much harder, and they cover the court so much quicker. She's like, no woman, and including me, Serena Williams, is going to beat a man in the top 500. And that was a very honest statement. But women's tennis makes plenty of money. They don't need the men. They can do their own tour, stuff like that.
Well,
They
one,
often,
they've got a monopoly and it's an international monopoly. It's not
right,
WNBA is just a domestic league. That's why Brittany Griner had to go to Russia to make a living outside of the WNBA seasons because
right, because you make
the
more.
WNBA doesn't pay shit. So
Right.
but anyway, good discussion. Everybody ready for the news quiz, or anybody have anything else they want to talk about?
I'm ready.
All right. If you noticed at the top of the broadcast tonight, there is a QR code. And you know what the handy dandy thing of that QR code does?
It's
You
saying that
scan
if
it.
you want to be a submissive,
Yes, if you want
scan
to ball gag.
that.
No, if you want to subscribe to us on
Pay for it.
YouTube. Yeah, that QR code, you can scan you take your phone, scan it, and it'll take you to my YouTube page where you can subscribe to the channel. You can see down here at the bottom of the screen, it says subscribe to Papa Duke. That is my YouTube channel. Really appreciate it. Helps increase the flow and the conversation that we get going during these shows. Thank everybody who's been commenting: John Wallenberger, James Sabina, Craig. We've had a nice, lively discussion tonight. So Chirpcast on Twitch. Very nice. Thank you so much for joining us. So let me get to the. Where's that? There we go.
Yeah, in my defense, I've purposely been ignoring the headlines, so we'll see how
That
this
means you're going to
goes.
get every one of them. I have to hide the chat for a
I know
moment.
what that is.
There we go. We got eggs. We got people.
Ice skating.
Ice skating. Looks like that probably the one in Ottawa, maybe even Montreal. And then that
Superman
train disaster.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. So question number 1. Which politician announced this week that she's running for president in 2024? Why? Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley, Sarah Palin, or Kamala Harris?
First of all, let's talk about the fact that in this list, there are 2 Indian Americans, which is pretty astonishing.
Yeah.
So yay us. AJ, who do you think it is?
Nikki Haley.
It is Nikki Haley.
It is. Portmundo.
I just want to say, people don't realize, but Nikki Haley has a pretty good relationships with the party that used to be called Libertarian. My friend Steve French ran for governor against her in 2014 and was in the debates, and they had some really good, intelligent conversations about free markets, regulations, stuff like that. She is smart, on topic, and as such, she is considered a threat by the Republican patriarchy, and they're trying to dismiss her already.
So
Yeah.
She's
I
my
mean,
preferred Republican.
honestly, she does give Jeb
her
2024.
Syrian connection, but that just completely fizzled everything else.
What's that?
I said, I don't know if he was trying to sell me on her with the libertarian connection, but that just
Well, I said the party formerly known as Libertarian.
Yes.
oh, bless him.
Yeah, no, don't blame yeah, so Nikki Haley to me gives me a lot of Jeb 2024 vibes.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope that she does better. I mean, of the
I think she's got better energy than Jeb, but it's first of all, it's going to be good for the party. Not that I care about their party,
Yeah,
but I mean, it's better for the country that Trump doesn't win, and it's better for the country if the parties become more moderate.
yes.
And Nikki Haley is a more moderate Republican.
Yeah, I mean, she does have her moments, but I don't think she's all that great on LGBTQ issues. But although she did make the right decision in the wake of the Charleston mass shooting by taking down the Confederate flag from the state
Yep.
capital of Columbia. So, question number 2: approximately how many viewers watched the Super Bowl this past weekend? 3 million, 13 million, 33 million, or 113 million?
Got to be 113 million.
Got to be, yeah. I mean, if it was 33 million, that would be a scandal of how bad the ratings have gotten.
That would be like a libertarian rally on the Lincoln Mall. Sorry.
No, that's 33. That's not million. There's just 33.
Yeah.
Just the thing.
Yeah, 113 million viewers.
I think
third
33.
most watched TV program ever. All right, question number 3. 3 mysterious objects that were recently shot down over North America were likely harmless. The White House said this week. What do officials believe the objects were? Balloons, satellites, flying saucers, or drones? I missed this conference, but
News balloons.
yeah, probably regular balloons.
We
I'm waiting
they're
for
not balloons. They're actually the balloons that go up there. So the way that weather patterns work, and like you can see the national weather and the wind speed everywhere.
Yeah.
There's like 4,000 weather balloons launched in the United States every single day, and they all have radio transmitters on them, and they broadcast how fast they're moving with GPS, and that's how we know what the winds are at different altitudes too. And
so you're saying that we no longer know how fast the winds are above Lake Huron right now.
Yeah, I'm saying that those balloons have always been up there, and they still are. There's a wonderful, most people have seen, I can't remember the guy's name now, but he invented the porch bomb, which the glitter bomb.
Yeah, the glitter bomb through the porch pirates. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that guy also he wanted to set the world's record for the highest egg drop.
Oh yeah, you told us this about last week.
Yeah, exactly. Did I talk about it then?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, so that guy put a balloon up into space with not much work.
And I'm trying to find this. Mark Rober.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, if you want to sponsor the show, we would be happy.
If you ever get a chance to watch those glitter bombs, those are hilarious.
Yep.
And in fact, they're doing that for call centers in India now too. They're sending them these packages when they're trying to disrupt the scam call centers in India.
What's hilarious about it is that they put in a spray in the glitter bombs too.
Yeah,
it's a fart spray. And so like it stinks up the room pretty fierce as well.
So I watched the video where he had invented this new one, and he, because when he does this, because there's 4 phones in this contraption, and with the cameras facing out, so that no matter which angle that the perpetrator opens the box up with, they'll get them on camera with the reaction of the glitter coming out, and then the fart spray comes out. Um, but when it comes out, it's Macaulay Culkin from Home Alone, saying, "Have you had enough?" and all this stuff. And so he had Macaulay Culkin come over and check out his new invention, the newest iteration of this box, and he got blasted in the face with the fart spray. He's like, "I can still taste it." But yeah, it's really cool. It's really funny to watch those videos. All right, question number 4: which country declared a national state of emergency this week for the third time in its history due to a major storm? Greece, New Zealand, Mexico, or Finland?
I have no
I
idea,
do. I know.
but I
No
mean,
idea.
it's got to be Finland.
No,
What?
New Zealand got hit by a cyclone this week.
I still think it's Finland.
Wow.
Look at it. Says
That's
New
lies. That's
Zealand.
gaslighting.
Fake news.
Fake news. Exactly. The
Dan's like,
failed
no.
CNN, the lying CNN news
Yeah.
saying that New Zealand had a storm.
Yeah,
Only
pretty
Finland
brutal.
has storms.
Yeah, pretty brutal storm in New Zealand. Cyclone Gabrielle hit the North Island
So
with wind and rain.
what confused me is that it's only the third time, though, because I would think New Zealand would get hit by storms all the time.
I think
in
it's
fact-
where they lie, and where the jet streams and all that stuff don't take storms down that way that often.
Interesting. The most dangerous sailing race in the world is from New Zealand to Tasmania. And I can't remember the name of it right now, but
I thought it was
like-
the one that went from Perth to Sydney.
from where?
Perth, Australia, all the way to the south of the continent to Sydney.
I mean, parts of it they sail through the same waters, but this spatch down to New Zealand I mean, supposedly it's the worst. I have a book about it somewhere.
Interesting.
Yeah. The water's certainly similar.
Oh God, this is gross. Pepsi announced, question number 5. Pepsi announced candy flavored soda is back by popular demand. I want to know who these populars are and why they're demanding it. After it sold hundreds of dollars on the resale market, which flavor is it?
I think
Peeps.
that we can guess this
Yeah.
just by looking at the picture.
Yeah, it is Peeps.
Oh,
Oh, I saw that in the store. I was like, oh,
Now,
back
is
t-shirt
it
just looking at.
Peeps flavored Pepsi or Pepsi flavored Peeps?
it's Peeps flavored Pepsi.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's not. We have different definitions, my friend.
Soylent Green is Peepsel. Sorry.
Nice. Yeah. So Pepsi is mixing the taste of the signature soda with a pillowy, soft, and sweet marshmallow flavor. I wonder how many grams of sugar each of these have. It's got to be like
Diabetes.
it's got to be like
Diabetes.
whew.
It's my professional opinion.
Yeah. Question number 6. That shit will give me my diabetes. Question number 6. How much have egg prices increased over the past year? 10, 30, 70, or 90%?
I think it's 70%.
I think it's 70 as well.
I will go that way. Correct. Egg prices have skyrocketed 70% since this time last year, according to recent inflation data released by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The spike came after deadly avian flu wreaked havoc on the egg market, constraining national egg supply.
Now, the interesting thing about it, our good friend Tyler Harris has pointed out that this means regular egg prices are competitive with exotic egg prices. So if you wanted to try duck eggs or quail eggs or something like that, now's a good time to do it.
Yeah, I'm not down with that. I
We don't
mean,
eat a
I
lot of
generally don't eat eggs. I'm not a breakfast food person. Anyway,
What?
James has
Eggs
been.
are fantastic.
I
I
mean,
miss
eggs are
eggs,
okay. I
but
like
I don't
sunny
eat them
side up.
anymore.
Sunny
You
side
don't
up
eat
is
eggs
fine.
anymore?
No, I haven't had meat or eggs since May 1st of last year.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
More for me.
I still make omelets for Colin on Sundays.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
James says Peeps Pepsi is good. I'm gonna
James
trust
is
you on
weird.
that one. I'm going to
Yeah.
trust you on that
James,
one.
do you have diabetes? How's your pancreas feeling? Is it working?
It doesn't want to leave your body. Question number 7. Many Ohio residents are concerned about their health after a train carrying hazardous materials derailed there 2 weeks ago. Which chemical are they most worried about might still be lingering in the area? Arsenic,
Vinyl chloride.
benzene, beryllium, or vinyl chloride?
Alien Jan got it.
You said vinyl chloride?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
how is it
is.
the week that I pay attention to less social media, I know more?
Yeah, you're cranking these.
Yeah,
It's weird.
you're all knowing. Yeah, so the derailment on February 3rd prompted crews to manage detonations to release vinyl chloride. I, I don't know. I mean, we've got people trying to write laws that we can't have backyard barbecues, but they're fucking hunky dory with this shit. I just don't understand
I
why they
mean,
think that
the
burning
idea
this stuff off will.
the idea that things have to be transferred back and forth. Okay, I don't really have a problem with that. Probably shouldn't have a train wreck this big that causes this much damage. But okay, that the problem is the transparency.
Yeah,
Okay? The fact that nobody's really being honest about what's actually happening. And it's because of liability, I'm sure. But whatever it is, it's stupid. Now, the only thing that I hate more than what's happening right now is the fact that people are saying this is because Pete Buttigieg has no background in transportation. Oh my God, people, how stupid do you have to be?
yeah, like
You got to
I-
point fingers.
yeah,
Yep.
you got to blame somebody, but it's not on Pete Buttigieg. It's on the fact that I where I have been asking questions is, didn't we just have a railway strike that was aborted because the government stepped in and forced the workers to go back to work without sick leave?
Outstanding.
What
That's
about
true. And it's outstanding, right? The government said that they couldn't strike.
yeah, you can't strike for safety reasons. Well, that's a pretty big safety reason right there.
Yeah.
I
Man, I'm
mean,
So
really
does that
feeling
have anything to do with the breaks that they voted against requiring in like
yeah,
2018?
yeah, no, they tried to negotiate the ability to have sick leave, and they said,
Yes,
"No,
I
you can't strike
understand.
over it."
Huh.
Yeah, they
There's
forced
so
them
much
to.
to this. Like, are we ever actually going to know the truth, do you think, in our
Well,
lifetimes?
I mean, I think a lot of it is the fact that, yeah, we did pass the infrastructure bill the other year, but I think a lot of our train infrastructure is substandard because we just don't update a lot of our infrastructure.
yeah.
And the train companies are dependent on the federal government for doing it when really it should be on the train companies. You're moving stuff on these tracks for your own benefit. You should have some skin in the game on this thing, on
Yeah,
fixing
I agree.
these
This is a clear example of the government system failing.
yeah. Yeah. So, um, yeah, does
Shocking.
Pete Buttigieg have responsibility in that? Well, yeah, he is the Secretary of Transportation, but is he responsible for this train going off the tracks? Probably not. It's probably
Is the fact that
failure.
he doesn't have any experience with trains, does that have anything to do with it? No.
No, I mean
So dumb.
most of your corporations are run by
Mm.
people. I mean, I remember when I worked for Hewlett Packard, and Carly Fiorina was our CEO. You know what her background is in? Her educational background is in.
No.
It's not
Hmm.
an MBA, not even a DBA. She had a bachelor's in art history.
Wow.
That was her educational background, and she became CEO of one of the largest companies in America. So
And she ran for president.
Nice.
she did. Yeah, but yeah. So the thing that I'm worried about is that this happened right on the Ohio River. It's like 10 miles from the West Virginia border. There's a town
Mhm.
called Newell there. That if you ever eaten on a Fiesta plate, the Fiesta factory is there in Newell. Um, Beautiful kind of Spanish inspired plates or Mexican inspired plates. Uh, but that's where they're manufactured. Um, the fog cloud from this derailment is going down the Ohio River, which is the western border of the state of West Virginia. And apparently the fog cloud went through Huntington, which is yeah, pretty good distance away. You're talking about from the tip of the very northern panhandle all the way down to near the southern border of West Virginia, where this cloud has gone down to. So it's not just this, town of East Palestine that is being impacted. It's going all the way down the Ohio River. Remember, the Ohio River feeds into a whole bunch of other rivers, including the Mississippi River. So
And
yeah,
in Tennessee.
it'll come down through
Yeah, I
Tennessee
saw
too.
that map. I was like, "Oh, crap. I know all those places." Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right, question number 8. World's largest outdoor ice rink, which usually sees more than 1 million visitors each year, may be closed for the entire season this year due to lack of ice. Where is it located? Stockholm, Sweden; Ottawa, Canada; Moscow, Russia; or Tokyo, Japan. I think that's the canals in Ottawa.
Is it?
That picture at the beginning, I think that was the
Yeah.
canals in Ottawa.
All right. If I were going to guess, I would guess Tokyo because it's so populous. However, 1 million actually seems kind of low. All
Yeah.
right. I like James too. So let's go for Ottawa, which incidentally is the
John
capital
says
of Canada.
Japan as well, but I think it's Ottawa, but we'll see.
All right.
Rideau Canal Skateway is located in Ottawa, Canada. However, there isn't enough ice to create the skateway this year due to warming temperatures. It has been a warm winter, at least in the Northeast. I
Yep.
have we've had one. I have one snow where I actually had to shovel a little bit early in the season before winter. Had one snow that the rain took care of uh, the snow afterwards. That's it. Um,
Do
so
you own
maybe
a snowplow, Dave?
I do. I just got
Or
a shovel.
blower?
I got a my driveway is maybe 50 feet. So I mean it's not that big. And then if it gets that bad, I've got teenagers in the neighborhood that I can bribe with $50 to come do it.
Cannabis.
Yeah, I can't say that. Uh, but yeah, so Ottawa, Canada, largest canal skating rink in the world. Yeah, I know it's kind of famous. They've talked about, and it hasn't come to fruition, and probably won't now. But they have talked about maybe doing an NHL game there. Have had outdoor games. In fact, this weekend they had an outdoor game in Raleigh, North Carolina. It would be interesting to see how they would do it if they did it on I think this is a little thinner than a standard NHL rink, but it would be
Well,
interesting. I like the idea of an outdoor game in a natural element like this rather than manufactured.
They made that movie about the game in Alaska,
Mystery Alaska. Yeah,
Mystery Alaska. Yeah, I always liked that. And I what's interesting about it too is they've talked about this at a couple of the winter classics. Like the Canadian guys, they're used to playing outside,
yeah,
stuff like that. The Americans generally are not. Like in Minnesota, Massachusetts, you might have played a little bit outside, but nowhere near as much as the Canadian guys who, that's just their thing.
yeah. I mean, a lot of kids in Canada, um, their parents will build them outdoor rinks. They're not like full regulation size, but they're enough to cut up some ice and hone their skills at hockey. All right, question number 9. Pressure is building on House Republicans and President Joe Biden to resolve their differences on dealing with the nation's debt limit. What is the current debt limit? 3.414 billion.
Who came up with these choices?
I know, 17 billion, 1.2 trillion, or 31.4 trillion.
It's 31.4 trillion. Sad.
Yep. Sad that it's gotten this way, and just to think of how much we've added to the national debt over the last few years.
So when I became executive director of the Libertarian Party, we gave away stickers. I got one right here. Look at that. No, 22 trillion.
Yeah.
That's 2019.
oh my
We're trying to tell
God.
people
2019.
don't let the debt get to $22 trillion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here we are 3 years later, 4 years later.
10 million more, $10 trillion more.
Yep.
Amazing. All right. Question number 10. And for a perfect week, which celebrity recently broke the internet by showing off a baby bump? Jennifer
Wait,
Lopez, Rihanna.
we got one wrong.
Hmm?
Didn't we get one wrong?
You might have. No, I think we're We're golden.
All right.
Look at this.
All right. Well, in that case, we got 100 out of 100.
Well, no, we haven't answered number 10.
Yeah, but we all know this one.
It is Rihanna, right?
Yeah, because we're part of the 133 million people who watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And
For the
Rihanna's
record,
baby.
nah.
Well, two of us are.
Right.
All right, question number 10 is correct, and we have done a
Nice.
perfect week this week. And you know what? This is why. This is because AJ came back. Last week we
I
were
agree.
7 out of 10.
Yep.
So
Oh, my
yeah,
bad.
thank you so much.
Oh, staying off social media and coming to the podcast. Good ideas.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that you stayed off social media and you were much more well informed about the news.
That is interesting. I do read headlines like here and there, but I try to not hesitate with the
What do
mouse
you
too
guys?
much, because if you hesitate on something, then it'll recommend like 10 more. And if I accidentally get on a Marjorie Taylor Greene article and hesitate for too long, I'll get 10 more and it'll be the worst day ever. It'll just be a terrible day.
What do you guys do for like your news consumption? I am a Google News guy.
I do
I'm
Google
all over the
News.
place. I go to I recently switched TV providers. Actually, I was going to do Sling, but Sling didn't have the channels my wife watches, so I went to YouTube TV. Now, I'm watching BBC World News. I watch Deutsche Welle. I watch. I scan the internet for news stories. I go on Drudge Report. I go on CNN. Kind of give me a balance of domestic news sources, and then I don't trust. I mean, I look at the news and I kind of go with what my gut says on a lot of news because you know like I don't trust BBC for British government news, but I do trust BBC for American government news because they really don't have a reason to sell us on anything.
Yeah, I think you, Dave, know Crystal Woodworth from Maryland. She was actually in the last campaign. But she started working for a group that I am going to plug now called allsides.com.
Yeah.
And one of the things they do is every news story, they print a left, right, and moderate article on them. And they try to keep things pretty balanced. This is interesting. It's a good idea. Allsides.com. People should check it out.
I'll just check
I
it
always
out.
take notes for me. So, do y'all want to know what the dumbest thing is Tennessee did this, or Tennessee is attempting to do?
Tell us.
Oh, oh my gosh. Okay. So, y'all know who John Lewis was, correct?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have to, Okay. So, he actually had, the sit-in luncheons and whatever. And one of the most beautiful things about Fifth Avenue in Nashville is there's a little section of it that is John Lewis Way, because he actually led marches there, right? So there is a proposal by the Republican Party, shocking, to rename it Donald Trump Boulevard.
Oh.
Wow.
I think this might break everybody. This might break the state. I'm so excited. This is what people can get mad about, because they're getting pissed about this.
Yeah, I would be throwing rocks at the state capitol.
Right. I know. I'm
Oh my
so
God.
excited. They're going to get so mad.
It's funny. So I am, I briefly, it's not going to happen. Don't get overly excited about it. But I did look at a property in Tennessee last week in Gainesboro, and tempting. You get a lot for your money up there. But man, you're not selling me on the politics, AJ.
No, I can't tell anybody on the politics. Okay, sweetie. So true, complete, I don't know, transparency here. I, unlike the government, will tell you the truth. I checked out other states this week. Like,
Yeah.
I did not sleep this week. I did not eat this week. I talked to like my employer about relocation services. Like, I freaked the crap out because I don't want to wait until it's too late. I have read this book. It doesn't end well.
Well, I'll tell you what, AJ, you should at least consider Massachusetts, even though it's a hardcore left state. Nurses make an assload of money there, and woman's right is going to always be protected in Massachusetts. And
You can do the same in Maryland as well. You can come
yeah,
hang out with Dan and me.
yeah, it's interesting actually. Massachusetts is a much more libertarian state than people think it is, just because we're the home of the Sons of Liberty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird blue state. Like it can be, like for example, right? Massachusetts actually legalized gay marriage. And in fact, it was the Massachusetts case.
What's
Was
first?
yeah. I think technically Hawaii was first, but
Yeah, but
it
that
was
was
like
civil unions, right?
exactly some weird thing.
Yeah.
Massachusetts has fantastic legal cannabis. The best minds at Harvard, MIT, their agricultural schools are now cranking out graduates who are producing just wonderful edibles. I, I really, it's a great sports town. I know that's important to you,
Too close to the Red Sox.
So important. It's like you know me.
but I miss Massachusetts every day, and I don't miss the draconian gun laws. I don't miss the crazy taxes, but it is, when Massachusetts passed Romney Care, it was pretty much voluntary. It passed by like 74%. People just wanted to do it to look out for their neighbors. Now, it's different being in a state where the average household income is $80,000.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you're thinking about it, you're a nurse, I can hook you up. I got a great posse up there, people who would welcome you. So think about it.
I
And West,
appreciate that. It's mostly up to my son for now, and then trying to figure out Colin and high school, and it's a weird thing to think, because okay, I've never been more than 8 hours from where I'm sitting. I've never been further than that. So it's a wild thing. But I have a notebook over here that has pages and pages of, okay, this state has this protection and this state has this, and just losing my mind. Who do I know here? Who do I know there?
Yeah.
And I mean, getting rid of Facebook was not the smartest thing when it comes to that part, but also, I don't know.
It'd be
It
a fun
nearly broke me
adventure
this
too.
week. Huh?
It would be a fun adventure too.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just,
So
oh,
the one other thing I'll say is that you still have one kid in high school, right? So
mhm.
get that kid established residency in Massachusetts to get into the UMass system. I'm a proud UMass Boston graduate. I mean, Tennessee's not a bad school. It's just not, but it's in
I didn't
Tennessee.
go. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, terrible football program. But other than that, I just said that to piss off everybody in Tennessee.
Tennessee numbers plummet.
We got so many reasons to be pissed off. Tennessean's gonna wake up tomorrow just angry and growling.
Exactly.
It's gonna be great.
I mean, Nashville is a really cool city. No way
Yeah.
around it. Yeah. But
Yeah.
Boston is so cool.
See, I had fascination with Boston when I was, I don't know, in my teens for whatever reason. It probably had something to do with MTV's The Real World or something. They had a
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Boston
Yep. They did a
thing,
real world
and it was
Boston.
so
Yeah.
fascinating. You
It's
could
like
go
going
out
to
at
Fish
any
Bone.
time of day and somebody's doing something. That's crazy to me because I'm surrounded by Amish. Like,
Yep. Well, what's really interesting about it is, so Boston, as crazy as it sounds, the bars actually have to stop serving alcohol remarkably early because of the fucking Puritans. But if it's a nightclub, nightclubs can stay open until 2 o'clock, but
Interesting.
bars have to close at 11. It's
Wow.
crazy.
I didn't
oh,
realize that. But you know what? James Savina says West Virginia is a good state. West Virginia is a good state. The problem with West Virginia is their politicians are jackholes. I mean, they're just they have spent decades just extracting every good thing out of this state, whether it's coal, natural beauty, or money, and sending it far flung reaches to basically get campaign donations back for themselves. I It's not going to change until Big Jim will not be here much longer, but there are uh, robber barons that will replace him that have been ruling the state of West Virginia for so long. Whether it's the Moors, the Capitos, the Mansions, there are legions of these politicians there to replace them eventually. My hope is at some point that someone who's not really a West Virginia, uh, you know, big family actually gets into office there in West Virginia, into Charleston. I just don't foresee it happening for a long time because the state is very comfortable with voting these folks in. And Big Jim won by a massive margin. I think a lot of that had to do with Donald Trump, but he's still very popular in this state, and I just don't get it. But speaking of Big Jim,
Excuse me just a second. I've got to go pee and then throw up, and because the information is not pleasing.
yeah, that's Big Jim. That's Big Jim. So, um,
Oh dear.
interesting dude. He's an interesting dude, but yeah,
I've
it's
got
just
to
a
go
long line of
pee.
a long time. We're just going to replace him with someone else that has done the deed in this state. Once we get past 2024, and he'll probably become our senator. Who knows? Um, all right. Sad news this week. Jimmy Carter announced that he is going on hospice care. Um, he served 4 years. And I don't care what you think about his politics. He's probably the most decent person we've ever have serve in the White House.
Yep.
Not just his work after he left the White House, but his service to the country before he was in the White House, and everything combined, just a decent, good human being. He is the oldest living president that we've ever had. Um, Took that title from Reagan a couple of years ago, and but yeah, generally you can put yourself on hospice if you're listed as having less than 6 months, and he's had a few hospital stays recently, and I think he doesn't want to fight. I mean, it's his world is natural progression now.
Yeah, there's a great article people can look up about what doctors do when they get a fatal diagnosis. They don't fight because they know that generally the fight is miserable and it causes suffering for everybody around you. Someday we'll have death with dignity everywhere in the country.
Yeah.
And, I certainly hope for me when the time comes. I'm a person with a chronic lung disease. That's always a miserable death, choking, feeling like you're drowning,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So, when the time comes, I got a lot of heroin stashed away, and that's my plan.
I always said that if I get a terminal diagnosis, that I'm going to do stuff like I'm going to do heroin. I'm going to do like the forbidden
All
shit
the
because
things.
Well, I
why
mean,
not?
right. The thing about it is, right, is that, if you talk to people and you read about it, right? I mean, I almost hate to say this out loud sometimes because I'm afraid somebody will get the wrong opinion about it. But there are heroin addicts who will tell you that the first rush from heroin was a better feeling than the first time they saw their child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's crazy, right? A feeling like that is so addictively good. And
I've heard the same thing about cocaine too. Like
I've done plenty of cocaine.
Oh, well, there you
Not
go.
yeah, it's okay. But it's not the,
I think it's where you want to push yourself.
I think if you weren't, a person who was confident in their life, maybe cocaine would make you feel better. But like, I mean, whatever. I'm a person who's never been unsure. Or let me rephrase that. There are times that I'm unsure about what to do, but I'm not unsure that I'll make the best decision that I could if I think about it.
There you go.
And so having that level of confidence, cocaine wasn't really a big, like it didn't make me more confident.
I always go back to, and I know I've heard it's been outed as a fake story, but the guy that was suicidal that went to Mexico and did hookers and blow and found a reason to live and came back and lived his life.
Right now, then, on the other side of it, the epiphany from psychotropics, and for me,
Yeah.
particularly mushrooms, that's outstanding. That is another experience. But I don't know
That would be more of my hospice plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it was fun and it was fascinating. I don't know what I would do in a situation where, I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like. Obviously, I'm older than you guys. And I think about, what will my mind frame be? And there's certainly parts of it that, are very sad. If you've ever listened to My Chemical Romance, they have a song called Cancer. And the chorus is, the hardest part of this is leaving you. And, I think about that. So I think, but that's the nice thing about a death with dignity is that it lets you pick your time and place, make a piece at it with everybody in your family. And you get to go together and just do your
And you can
thing.
do it while you're coherent, because I've been in situations, my father, my wife's mother, at end of life, where they lose the ability to communicate, and they're just being doped up to the point that they're existing, but they're not there anymore. So yeah, death with dignity, being able to choose that time and being able to coherently make those last connections. 'Cause
Right.
that is, I think that's why people fight, is that it's not so much that I know that there are people who are afraid of dying, but I think at that point you kind of get that, this is the process of life, but it's leaving behind those people and being scared for them, I think is what a lot of people will fight for. Um, but yeah, it's sad. Jimmy Carter is a good man, and I think the world will be much less for him not being in it. But he's had a good run, and he's left this world far better than when he found it. So,
There aren't many more examples of people who have tried to live a moral and righteous life.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might disagree with his interpretation of that, but you can't disagree with the fact that he lived to his standards, which is very few people do. Very
Yeah.
few public presidential candidates.
Yeah. All right. Before we wrap up, the Rage Against the War Machine rally this week, the today.
Y'all tell me all the good stuff because I'm
All
not
right,
on
so
social media.
I'm gonna be generous and count some of the tourists that were obviously trying to go see the Lincoln Memorial in the crowd. And I would say maybe 500 people that were there. The speakers ranged from old man shouting at cloud to uh, Jimmy Dore saying, let me pull up his quote here. Thomas Royko reported his quote, "Why are we sending that money to Nazis in Ukraine when we could be funding Nazis here in America struggling to buy eggs? Isn't it just like our government to neglect the Nazis we have here in America?"
I'm going to
That's an
send you a link, Dave. If you can put this image on the screen, it was my favorite one.
Oh,
Oh my God. Hold on a second. Let me get the full screen on this one. So,
oh, I'm dying. I'm like,
no, that's not it. Where did I put it? There we go.
Blow it up.
Let me get the chat.
No, just click the plus sign in the top corner. Top right. See the plus in the top right?
This one?
Left 3.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there we go.
All right.
Wow.
Uh,
No
yeah,
regrets,
I got one
really
that
and truly.
yeah, they're like I say, nothing since the day I left the Libertarian Party on the 29th of May of 2022 have I regretted of having left. Let me get out of this one. There's one I got to show you. I actually this is probably the most embarrassing moment of the entire thing. For if you're somebody who supports the Libertarian Party, get this one off.
Stop.
What's that?
Which one?
This moment right here. Chair of the Libertarian Party, Angela McArdle, speaking to the crowd with a Russian flag unfurled behind her,
Yeah, there's a
flapping
couple of
gently in
those.
the breeze. Absolutely awful. And I made this meme today. The words are something famous that she said to some supporter that got mad that we had done something quote unquote woke. I will not. I will make this party, or I'll make this functional and not embarrassing. That's written in Russian here. So
Я сделаю, что функциональным и не стушащим. Shushashi.
Okay,
My
that's
college
kind of hot. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah, absolutely, just embarrassing. Like
Oh
and
man.
people are saying, well, they obviously it was a plant that put the flag back there. Now you can't control what goes on in the foreground, in front of you as a speaker, but behind you, that's not the stage. That's the stage. You shouldn't have people behind you. You should, at the very first part, go back there and say, hey, no flag waving, nothing that we haven't approved to go up, because that's just bad
And
optics.
but also there's not just one flag. There's several.
Oh
Like
yeah,
in
there
the
were Soviet flags there.
yeah, it's crazy. And
Wow.
The People's Party takes direct money from the Russian government.
Yeah,
Chris
because they're not an official political party.
Right. But Chris Hedges or Hodges or whatever his name is has a show on Russia television. His
Yeah.
salary is paid for by the Russian government.
Yep.
So, as I posted elsewhere, right, the Russian government is not paying for anti-war protests because they think their invasion of the Ukraine is going well. They're
Yep.
losing militarily. So all they can hope to do is to
It's so
get
disconnect.
exactly.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, the news stories about this on Russia Today were gone within like an hour. Like they put up a story, and that thing's already gone off the Russia Today website. Like they knew how embarrassing it was. Like
Oh
you got
my
500
gosh.
people here.
Right.
Yeah. The anti-circumcision protest in front of the White House was just about as big that I saw when I first moved to DC. So again, a lot of money was raised, a lot of money was wasted. Um, we're seeing membership reports from the Libertarian Party once again where it's showing a downward trend. I think it's only going to get worse.
Weird.
And they're lucky that violence didn't happen today, because they were in a very legally precarious situation. If something had happened at the mall, and they went fools on parade, and damaged the Lincoln Memorial or damaged something else, or there's fights and things like that, it could have gotten really legally precarious for the Libertarian Party, because they were a lead sponsor on this thing. Somebody could have gone after them for all kinds of financial stuff. There was an interesting thing. Supreme from the Wu-Tang Clan, who was originally supposed to speak at this thing, apparently nobody asked him, or he didn't approve it, because or at least he found out what the actual thing was. It wasn't an anti-war thing. It was actually a pro-Putin Moscow thing. Sent a cease and desist letter to McCardle and the People's Party guy to pull him off all the advertising for it. So we'll see what happens with that, because they weren't able to get him off a lot of stuff before this thing rolled out.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Anyway, so speaking of the peace, the pro-Putin protest that was, we are now moving on to the year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. So next week we're going to talk about the Ukrainian war. We'll try and get. I've already reached out to Brandon Warzibach, who was on previous broadcast about the Ukraine war. Maybe Travis Rednick as well, and have a follow on 1 year later as we got into the Ukraine war. So thanks everyone for joining us this week. I really appreciate it. Again, at the very top, there's the QR code to check out the YouTube channel. Give us a like, share, subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. And we will see everyone next week. Take care, everybody.
Hasta.